And it starts.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you saw in the beginning intro there, the snow has finally struck the people here in Pennsylvania. And it's not so much the snow as it is the salt that they put down to stop the snow that causes us to have to put our cars away for the winter here. And that's what this video is going to be all about. Winterizing the C7 Corvette. It's a sad thing, but honestly, living in this area, it's kind of a fact of life. So let's just go over everything you want to do to ensure that your car is stored correctly for the winter. Number one, probably one of the biggest ones, is you're going to want to make sure this car is clean. I did just wash my car yesterday. I kind of left that video out of it because it takes a lot longer than I'd like to admit. I will link it up here at the top right though. If you have an interest in seeing what method I use to wash my car, you can click on that video. But honestly, this step is especially important if you want to use any kind of car cover. You don't want any kind of dirt or debris or anything like that on top of the paint when you put that cover on, because it's basically going to act as sandpaper. And even though the car is stored inside, every little bit of movement is literally just going to take that dirt or whatever might be on the paint and just scratch it back and forth across your paint. So definitely want to make sure this thing is spotless before you throw a car cover on it. Number two, we're going to want to fill up the gas tank as full as you can get it. In this case, since we are winterizing the car, fill it up with 93, get it as full as you can. Basically, the fuller the tank, the less likely it is to get any kind of moisture or anything in there that could potentially freeze. It's also a good thing to have a full tank whenever the springtime does arrive. You can take out the car and enjoy it without having to worry about filling up your gas tank. Now, another thing you're going to want to do right after you fill up the gas tank is buy yourself a bottle of Stable. So here's the Stable that I was talking about. This stuff goes into your gas tank and basically makes it so the gas doesn't quote unquote go bad during storage. So this particular bottle here says it treats up to 25 gallons. I know the gas tank on the Corvette's something like 19 gallons. So I'm just gonna dump it all in there. It's not worth saving a tiny little bit, but let's get right to it. So the tool you guys are gonna need for this is actually gonna be something that came with the car. It's this little funnel. This actually will go in there and go past the two doors in the fuel tank to allow you to dump something in. These two little doors are like security doors to stop people from randomly putting stuff in your gas tank. So you need this to bypass both those doors to allow you to dump things right in the funnel end here. Okay, and then we'll just slide this right in here. Just like that. You can actually feel it go in through both those doors. And now you can dump that fuel stabilizer right in there. Number three, and this might be one of the most important ones on the list, depending on how long it's going to sit, of course, is change your oil. I just recently changed my oil. I made a video about it. Again, you can check that out right up here at the top right. And honestly, you could have potential problems from letting the car sit with dirty oil in it for an extended amount of time. The oil itself collects dirt and particles out of the air and ultimately starts to get acidic as the oil starts to break down. And that's not something you want to have sitting in your aluminum block over the winter time, to just sit there and possibly eat away at pieces of your engine. So it's always good to change the oil right before you put it away, not right after you get it out. That way, number one, you're protecting the engine from any kind of that acidic buildup I was talking about. And number two, again, once springtime hits, you're ready to go. You don't have to worry about changing oil or anything, you just go. And number four is more of a personal preference, but since I keep my car in the garage with my wife's vehicle, which is still driven during the winter, I like to have kind of a buffer under my car to keep water and snow and everything like that from making its way off her car and then under mine. I use these mats here. I'll put all those together, and those actually will go underneath the car. And they only cost me like 30 bucks from Harbor Freight. And really all it does is it kind of keeps the tires off the cold concrete, and it also stops anything from my wife's car, which is usually parked right here, from leaking under and going under my car Not that it's a huge deal, it's just kind of a peace of mind for me. So this isn't really something you have to do, but it is something that I do. So let's go ahead and get these mats put under this car. One thing I would definitely invest in if you're not going to put it on a mat like this is some flat stoppers from race ramps. You actually park the car on top of them and it supposedly stops flat spots. But what I do instead, I park it on these mats here, and then I also inflate the tire to 35 PSI, just a little over what it's supposed to be at, just to kind of keep them a little harder so flat spots aren't something that develops so easily. Number 5 is going to be to put some steel wool, or I usually just use microfiber cloths, put them in the exhaust pipes. This basically just keeps mice and rodents out of the exhaust tips if for any reason you have any issues with something like that. I really don't have any problems with that, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Here's a shot after I put the microfiber towels in the exhaust tips. Of course, you want to go ahead and clean them all up first, and then just literally shove some microfibers in there. It just helps deter rodents and everything from getting in. Number 6, we're going to come inside the car. Once you park it where it's going to sit for the entire winter, you want to make sure it is in first gear and that electronic e-brake is not on. Basically, this is just one of those things that, you know, at some point, e-brakes can kind of get frozen up onto the actual inside of the rotor. And this is really not something that happens anymore, but it's still just something I do for argument's sake. And really, my garage is completely flat, so there's no risk of the car rolling or anything. So I figured, why not? And another thing you can do is just make sure you have your interior all vacuumed up, seats all cleaned up with leather cleaner if you use that kind of stuff, and just clean it all up. Make sure there's no dust or anything up on the dash, just things like that. If you have a problem with mice, you can kind of put like mothballs in here somewhere or around the vehicle, but ultimately I don't have any issues that are that pressing that I would do anything like that at this point. It's never a bad idea to set mouse traps around the car too if you do have that problem. But basically the biggest reason you want to keep this stuff clean is that way when springtime comes around, you can literally just jump in and go. You don't have to worry about cleaning it up or anything first. It's just nice to get into a clean car. Number 7 is a bag of silica gel. These really just help keep moisture out of the car and everything during the time it sits. So I'll just take this, set it right on the center console in the car or down in the passenger side footwell. It basically just keeps moisture away. It absorbs any moisture that might be in the car. Again, not necessarily something that you have to do, but I have these laying around, so why not? And I'll just take it and set it right there for now. That kind of places it pretty close to center of the car so it can really just absorb any moisture that might make its way in here. Number 8 is going to be the battery tender. This is actually the Corvette branded battery tender, which is actually made by C-Tech, I believe. So we'll go ahead and take this. I have an outlet right here in my garage. I'll go ahead and plug it in and I'll show you the process here. So I have it plugged in right here. I actually run it up here hanging on a little hook I have right there. And then you just take the other end, which is obviously like a cigarette lighter, and you come in here into the trunk, which right here is a little flap. You open that up and there is a cigarette lighter adapter again. So we would just plug that in right there. And that's it. As you can see, it has started charging the battery already. Now this cord here is actually thin enough. I usually just set a microfiber towel right here underneath it and then close the hatch right down on it, and it's fine. This is the final product. Just the microfiber towel, cord coming right out through there, and the hatch is completely closed. The last step that you would take would be to go ahead and throw your car cover on. But in my case, I still have a couple things I need to get in and out of the car. I want to get my radar detector out of there to put in the truck for the winter. So I'm not going to put my cover on just yet, but this would be the point where you would throw the cover on because you are all set. The car is ready to hibernate. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Just to recap, number 1, you want to make sure your car is clean. 2, fill it up with gas, put some stable in there. 3, change your oil, check your fluids. 4, you can throw the car up on a mat or something like I did if you want. That's kind of personal preference. 5, once you park it for the winter, just make sure you put it in first gear or park if it's an automatic without the e-brake on, just for the possibility of it freezing up. You don't want to have any problems down the road. 6, put something inside the car that will absorb moisture. If you get any kind of moisture in your garage or anything, it might be a good idea. 7, hook it up to a battery tender. Never a bad idea to keep that battery fully charged. And one of the last things would be just to throw a car cover on it, just so it's covered from the dust, and if anything were to fall from the ceiling in a garage or anything, it's kind of protected. But really, that's going to be it, guys. It's not really a hard process. It's just something you want to do every year to kind of keep it clean, ready for the springtime whenever it comes. And that way you're ready to go. So if you guys liked the video, give me a big thumbs up. If you have any questions about the process or comments, go ahead and shoot them in the comment section down below. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And as always, guys, I'll catch you in the next upload.